I'd like to welcome you to the St. Louis County Planning Commission virtual public hearing. This meeting is for the purpose of hearing presentations on petitions for rezoning or requests for special procedure permits. I'm Wayne Hilsinger, Chairman of the Commission. In addition to the other members of the Planning Commission, I would like to introduce Jacob Trimble, Acting Director of Planning, and the planners assigned to tonight's petitions. The Commission will not make a decision on petitions heard this evening. Normally, the Commission will receive staff reports and make a decision on tonight's petition at an executive meeting in June. Additional comments, letters, and petitions submitted to the Department of Planning within 2 weeks of this meeting will be distributed to the Planning Commissioners in their executive meeting agenda packet. If additional information is required, the decision may be delayed. The Planning Commission's recommendations will then be forwarded to the County Council, who has the responsibility for the final decision. The meeting will observe the following guidelines. Planning Department staff will show photos of the petition site, then the petitioner will present the request. They will be allotted 15 minutes. Then persons in favor, in opposition, or with concern will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes. Please note you may only speak once. To indicate you wish to speak, click the raised hand icon to the right of your name on the participant list. Please keep your remarks brief and avoid repetitive or seconding presentations. After all opposition speakers have spoken, only the petitioner will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal to answer questions and points raised by other speakers. The Commission may ask questions of any speaker. After the meeting concludes, a poll will appear, allowing you to indicate whether you are in favor, in opposition, or with concern. This is not a vote and is not binding on the Commission or the County Council. The purpose is to make the crowd count part of the record for each petition. And with that, we'll hear tonight's petition PC 17-22, Our Ladies Inn.
Good evening. PC 17 and 18-22 Our Ladies Inn is a request for a change in zoning from R2 to R5 with a P.E.U. for a 7.37 acre tract of land on the north side of Big Bend Road at the corner of Longstone Lane. As you can see from the county context map, this site is in kind of southern West County, and there you can see the outline or the site outlined in red on the aerial. From the land use map, you can see that the surrounding uses north of Big Bend Road is primarily single-family residences and vacant wooded area around the site, as well as the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way. South of the site on the southern side of Big Bend is the Tree Court Industrial Park, as well as the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad right-of-way and single-family homes developed in the NU. Here's a second aerial where you can see some of the surrounding single-family development, the wooded areas, and the industrial use to the south. This is looking west into the site at the public hearing sign. This is looking east down Big Bend. This is looking south across Big Bend. This is looking west down Big Bend. This is standing in kind of the access drive to the site looking towards Big Bend. This is still on that access kind of driveway looking towards Big Bend, looking southeast. This is looking south, looking west at the southern part of the property. This is looking northwest at one of the fenced off kind of pasture field areas on the site. Looking southeast into the site. Looking west at one of the existing, this is a barn structure existing on the site. Looking north at some of the other existing structures. Still north. And north looking at another existing structure. This is northeast at another field area on the site. Southeast, this is the existing single family home. East towards the other field open area on the site. And at this point,
Hey, George, I'm making you the presenter. Can you hear me, George?
I can, Mel. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
You should be able to bring it up now. Here it
Okay,
comes.
there we go.
Perfect.
Good, wonderful. Okay, well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is George Stock, and I'm with Stock and Associates Consulting Engineers, and I'm here this evening on behalf of Our Ladies Inn. They are the owners under contract of the property at 13205 Big Bend Road. Tonight, before the Planning Commission, we have two requests. 1722, which is a request to rezone the 7.37 acres from R2 to R5. And then the second request is PC 1822, a request for a P.E.U. in an R5 zoning district. Joining me this evening is our development team. So Peggy Force, who's the Chief Executive Officer with Our Ladies Inn, will speak in a moment. And then Megan Foster, Chief Operations Officer, Our Ladies Inn, is available for questions. Jonathan McKee, the architect with Jim Architect, he will speak in a minute. And then I'm George Stock with Stock Associates, and I believe Kate Stockgino, project manager with our firm, is on this as well. So what we thought we would do is turn it over initially to Ms. Forrest so that she can give an overview of Our Ladies Inn and our request. And then I'll go through the site elements, and then Mr. McKee will present. So I'm sure we'll be under 15 minutes. Thank you. Peggy?
Thank you, George. Thank you, commissioners. Wanted to just take a moment to share with you who Our Ladies Inn is, who we are. We've been around for 40 years. We opened our doors in 1982. We are a 501c3 non-for-profit agency. We are accredited through CARF International. We're a structured and professionally run program. We are staffed 24/7 with live-in house mothers at each of our homes. We provide a home for adult pregnant women and their small children throughout their prenatal term and following birth. We ensure connection to health services to facilitate healthy birth outcomes. We provide emotional wellness support. We assist in furthering education, job readiness, securing independent housing. And we lessen the burden on the hospital and emergency rooms, neonatal wards, and the taxpayers by the care that we provide these women throughout their pregnancy. The need in St. Louis County is real. Each year, more than 60 St. Louis County women ask for our services. We have served some of those by shipping them off to our homes in St. Louis City or St. Charles County. And that's a far cry from an ideal situation for these women. Many who call us, we do not have room in our other facilities to make a home for them. This facility that we are proposing will serve 12 women at a time. There are 12 bedrooms for the women.
Thanks, Peggy. So we think that this particular site, the 7.37 acres, is a perfect setting for Our Ladies Inn. A little bit of a rural setting, as you saw in the photographs, within the suburban area of St. Louis County. To the south, as you saw in the photos and what was described as Big Bend, generally flanking us on the south and the southwest. And then Longstone Lane, a relatively private street serving residential properties to the north, zoned R2. The eastern third of our site is bifurcated by the Ameren transmission lines and tower, which I think you saw in the background of one of the photographs displayed by staff. And then east of that is a single-family Chapelwood Court subdivision, which continues to the east. There's 3 cul-de-sac streets, all zoned R2. And then what was mentioned is the railroad to the south, and then south of that is the industrial development that exists. So this is just an overview with dimensions of the property. This was part of the publication or the public notice that was on the site, just generally showing the depth of the site being about 435 acres, and then as much as 950 feet in an east-west direction. So very large site. So a little bit of the views. Again, I'll be very quick. We have 3 views really looking at the site from Big Bend. Basically the southeast corner next to the residential subdivision. You see the first home's fence. And then as we move west on Big Bend, you see the entrance to what was the private drive serving the residents and the barn and the stables, which are on the property. And then you go further west and you see where Longstone Drive comes in and goes around the western perimeter of the site to serve those homes to the north. You'll notice that it's open prairie. There are wooded buffers on all sides, including the frontage of Big Bend. And really the approach in the site plan is trying to take a minimalistic approach to the site to retain as much of the topography and the vegetation as possible. So this is a little bit about the topography of the site. So I'll go from working from the northeast, which is a low area of the site, which is a roughly elevation 555. And then running through the middle of the site in east-west direction is a ridge line of about elevation 592. So 30 to 40 feet above the northeast corner, and then 40 feet, a little over 40 feet from the west corner, which drops off to 550. The barns and the buildings that you saw in the photographs are shown with the hatchet here, generally in the center of the site to the northern portion of the property line along Longstone Lane. So as I mentioned, the idea is to try to work with the topography and not disturb it. Certainly make no improvements underneath the Ameren transmission lines, which is as wide as 125 feet in width, along with one tower, which is located in the northeast corner of the site. So this is the positioning of the building, which is really working to take advantage of that topography, center the building, creating large buffers from Big Bend for privacy, providing buffers from the east where the residential properties are. And in this location, we're really able to retain much of the vegetation, which is along the east property line, the south property line, and the north. So we're proposing a single point of entrance off of Big Bend Road and with a little bit of a reverse curve or serpentine to serve the parking lot in the front of the building. And then as you'll see in a moment, there's some stormwater management facilities and utilities that will be put in place to serve the property. So when we look at this drawing and you look at the dark black lines, those are the actual grading contours of the land. Where there aren't those contours, there's no grading or land disturbance being changed. So for example, within that 125-foot easement to Ameren going to the east, the only change is down along Big Bend, and that's to facilitate a sidewalk along the frontage of Big Bend and build the commercial entrance. And then as we continue along Big Bend, you'll notice some of those contours. And again, the only reason we're grading those areas is to facilitate the sidewalk as required by St. Louis County. On both sides of the building, it's a T-shaped building. There are stormwater management basins that would be designed as nestled bioretention, so rain gardens. They would be landscaped. As you look at the facility, you'll see the parking, as I mentioned, and the service trash area, all being on the south side of the building. And then along the north is the passive recreation or the player area, walking trail, garden, and a covered outdoor pavilion. Relative to the parking provided, within accordance with St. Louis County Parking Code, based on the number of beds and the amount of office square footage, there's a requirement of 14 spaces. There's 4 spaces for the beds. There's 10 spaces for the office for a total of 14. We're providing 35 parking spaces, which also provide adequate parking for the number of staff, 6 to 10 program staff members that are working on the site 24/7. So a little more parking than what's required. We meet the ADA requirements. We have pedestrian walkways from the front of the building to the front door, and then again around the back of the building. So as I mentioned, we're trying to take the minimalistic approach. The two site sections, and I'll go back to the top picture. So section AA is a north section going from Longstone out to Big Bend, so through the center of the site. And BB is our east-west longitudinal through the building. And what this depicts is in solid black is the existing, I'm sorry, in red, the red dash line are the existing topography, and then the heavy black line is the proposed grading. So when you look at where the building's positioned, there's very little change, 1 to 2 feet as far as what the existing topography is to the finished floor. And really the only place you really see a departure from the topography is generally where we have a stormwater management basin and or the sidewalk that needs to be constructed along Big Bend Road. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. McKee with Jim Architects to take you through the architectural site plan and the architectural elevations. John?
Yes, thank you, George. Can everyone hear me okay?
We hear you fine.
Okay, great. Good evening, Commissioner Board and attendees. As George mentioned, I'm John McKee with Gemma Architects. I've been working with Our Ladies Inn on this project. And as he mentioned, this site is ideal for our use because we wanted to find a site that maintains the privacy for the visitors and the staff at the site, that's undisturbed, natural setting, provides them with a great space where they can feel that they have privacy, they can relax, and their mission can go about undisturbed. So as George mentioned, we sited the building along the crest of the natural topography, so very little had to be disturbed. The majority of the perimeter trees on the site are not being removed. We're adding trees to the project as shown here so that we can maintain that wooded landscape feeling. And as George had also mentioned, we carefully sited the project so that the bioretention basin on either side really keeps the site in the center of the site and away from the perimeter, both for the privacy of the neighbors and the privacy of those inhabiting this site. So on the floor plan, it's been developed in close communication with the clients to really satisfy their needs for the live-in suites, for the residents, the guests, the admin area, so that it's got adequate office space for the staff, and then programming offices there and additional storage. We worked really hard to keep this a one-story building. It satisfies all of their uses, has a little bit of room for expansion as needed, and then opens to the outdoors for program space for those utilizing the building, and has a bit of extra room in the northwest corner to expand in the future for any outdoor uses, unbuilt outdoor uses that they may require. Okay, looking at the elevation here, the intent was to keep with a residential style architecture so that this building did not feel out of place in its setting. We've got a pitched roof on either of the T-shaped forms. We've got windows, we have stone, wood framed elements in the roof and the walls, and really just trying to keep it a residential scale so it feels like a neighbor in the neighborhood and not a foreign entity here. As you can see, we're proposing a natural stone veneer, high energy insulated windows, visible wood trim to bring some warmth to the building, and an architectural shingle roof, similar to what's seen nearby in the residential communities. And then a board and batten exterior finish in a neutral color so that it doesn't feel out of place in the landscape. So with this view, what we wanted to show is what you can currently see from the site when there's no leaves on the trees. It is somewhat obscured looking through that electric easement, as mentioned before, toward the center of the site. And if you go to the next slide, we wanted to show what that same view would look like if we add the building on the site. As you can see, it's not heavily present from Big Bend Road. And if you go one more slide, this is what it looks like if it's anything other than winter where there is some foliage and some leaves on the trees, it starts to become more obscured and more private, as the current owners have enjoyed and as we're looking to utilize for this site. So again, this is from Longstone Lane on the north side of the site. This is the view of the current structure that is there. And this would be the view of the proposed structure. So it's located in the center of the project in a similar location to where the existing structure is, similar height, similar pitched roof. And we really expect the visual impact to the neighbors or anyone who experiences this building to be pretty minimal. And then these are some renderings showing the materiality of the building. As mentioned, we've got stone veneer, some warm wood elements, a pitched architectural roof, and new landscaping around the building. The interior will also have a lot of wood finishes. The idea is simple, keep it residential scale and feeling so that it feels welcoming to those enjoying the benefits of this space as a place where they can recover and grow, and then also function well as a professional office to those providing those services. And this just gives another view of the type of materials and finish we've been looking at for the proposed space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
George, you have anyone else? George, you have anybody else to speak or?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, that concludes our presentation. We're available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Did you leave the site plan up, George? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, let me do that.
Questions, anyone?
Can we talk about service or just the building itself or both?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll bite on this one here. How do the women get your services? Is it through referral, advertisement, or whatever? Let me get all the questions out that you can answer them the way you want to. If you can't remember all of them, I'll repeat them. Are they allowed to have visitors and the security? And when do they seek your service? At what stage of the pregnancy? And when does it terminate? Do they stay there the whole 9 months? Then are you going to have signage and lighting? If you didn't get all those, I'll repeat them if you want me to.
Well, this is George Stock. I heard visitors, security, term of pregnancy, signage and lighting. I did not hear the first one.
Oh, visitors.
Oh, visitors. Okay. Peggy, would you like to address those questions?
Certainly, I can do that.
Thank you.
So the women are referred to us from a variety of sources, doctors, hospitals, churches. Not all referrals. We don't accept all referrals, even if we have room, because not everyone is a fit for this structured program that we have. But we do get the women do come to us through referrals. Visitors. It is rare that we have visitors or that the women have visitors. I think that's probably what your question was about. However, if they do have someone that they would like to visit them, an appointment has to be made, and they have a 1 or 2 hour slot when they can have a visitor. And the program director would have to approve who it is who's visiting. So visitors aren't coming and going kind of willy-nilly all throughout the day.
Okay, so may I interrupt you a minute? So is this high risk type people, or?
Are you referring to the pregnancy?
No, the people, the women themselves.
Are they high risk?
abusive
So
relationships?
maybe what you're getting at, so we are not a domestic violence shelter. We do not take women who are fleeing a domestic violence situation. Is that more what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So no, we do not serve those women. We refer those to domestic violence agencies.
Okay. How about those having problems with the law?
I guess it, traffic tickets, things like that. I think those having those kinds of backgrounds, that doesn't prevent them from coming to us. But if there's some kind of violent offense or something like that, then no, we don't serve them.
Okay.
Because it's all about safety. So, trying to think what else do you.
Security.
Security. So in our current facilities, we have, security cameras inside and outside the building. So we would, we are planning on doing the same thing. We're not going to, have a gate or anything at the beginning of the driveway to prevent, cars from coming through that would impede the traffic on Big Bend. But as I said, because of any visitors that come, have to come with an appointment, we would know when to expect them and what vehicle they would be coming in.
The one question was regarding site lighting. So we are proposing site lighting along the driveway at Big Bend, up the driveway, and then the parking lot would be illuminated. And then there would be a limited amount of lighting on the building itself. While this drawing doesn't show a signage, I would presume we would have a monument sign at the access point with Big Bend Road.
Okay, then the other two questions were, when do they seek your services? At what stage of the pregnancy? First month, second month, third month? And the last one is, when does your service terminate? After the baby is born? Or?
So they can come at any point during their pregnancy, whether it's in the first trimester or the third trimester, and they can stay with us up to a year. So if they come early in their pregnancy, then they have a few months following the birth of their child. If they don't come till late in the pregnancy, then they have longer after the birth of their child.
Okay. Are these people mainly employed prior to coming to your facility, or are they unemployed? Some are employed when they come, but they're probably underemployed. But one of the main goals that each woman has, and that we work with her on through case management, is to find employment. Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Commissioners, anyone else? No one? Okay, we
Wait.
yeah, go ahead.
And I might have missed this when we were looking at the pictures before throughout the site. There was a log cabin on the site. I'm assuming that's gone or is going to be gone. Was there any historical value in that at all?
This is George Stock. I'm not aware of any historical value. This drawing, the survey shows you the positioning of where those buildings, the single family residence, the barn, those outbuildings, shows you where they were are currently located. They would not remain.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I mean, seeing you don't see a log cabin that often, and usually they've been around for a while.
And it actually is in quite disrepair and falling apart, so it's really a danger.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, Melissa, we'll go to comments. You want to take it from here?
Sure. So at this time, we're going to start taking public comment. So you will either need to click the raise hand button next to your name on the participant list. It may also be in the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx app. If you don't see it, you can send me a message. I'm Mel Wilson, but I'm the generic host on here. And then I do ask that after you have spoken, that you click the raise hand button to lower your hand again to bring you off the list. So first we will start with Michael Warner. Michael, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Warner, and I live at 950 Chapelwood Court. I stand opposed to the development at 13205 Big Bend Road. Missouri recognizes two types of variances, use and non-use. The Ladies Inn, as requested, I understand, has requested a use variance. The courts in Missouri, including the Supreme Court, have stated that counties should exercise the power to grant variance sparingly and only in the interest of public welfare. The courts, including the Supreme Court, use the term unnecessary hardship to evaluate an owner's request for a use variance, and under the unnecessary hardship test for use variance, a landowner must show: 1, the land cannot yield a reasonable return if only used for the purpose allowed in that zone; 2, the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances of the property; and 3, the use authorized by the requested variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So let's discuss these points. First, the property owner is unable to show that this land cannot yield a reasonable return under the permitted uses of the R2 zoning ordinance. A review of the surrounding neighborhoods shows that there are only single-family homes, some of which are still being built, all of which that have been sold recently have gone for prices approaching $1 million. Second, the property in question is not so unique in its character that its use demands a change in zoning. The property is surrounded by single-family dwellings built on the same topography as the land in question. All structures from Barrett Station to the railroad tracks are single-family dwellings. The closest commercial business is about 2/3 of a mile from Chapelwood Court, and the closest multifamily dwelling is about 3/4 mile away. The Tree Court Industrial Park, pointed out by the petitioners, is separated from this property by a tall bluff, a natural barrier, and is quite some distance from the property, so it should not enter into this use equation. Third, a zoning change has been once made to R5 will not revert to R2. This property is over 7 acres and once rezoned with additional conditional use permit can be used and developed for any R5 zoning purpose, essentially without objection from the surrounding neighbors. The character of the neighborhood would be forever changed by allowing multifamily dwelling and its extensive support staff. This proposed development would be surrounded by our single-family homes, and its size would dominate the landscape of our neighborhood. It would destroy our ability to have the contiguous neighborhood we now have. While some homes are new, others have existed for over 100 years. We are a neighborhood of homes that encompasses a wide variety of single-family dwellings that have been built over decades to create a diverse neighborhood unique in its composition. We are proud of that uniqueness and request this body allow us to keep it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Next will be Maureen Reed. Maureen, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Okay, thank you. I have to say one thing is I disagree with what George said. This is not a rural area. This is an area that is all residential and has been for quite a while. I wanted to ask, did my letter that I sent last night to the planning committee get distributed?
So we received a lot of public comments for this petition, and we send those to the commission with the staff report.
So if I don't know if it's been shared, I'll hit a couple of points that I am concerned about. I've lived off of Barrett Station Road for over 40 years, and single family home. I'm really concerned that, first of all, this development is not compatible with the surrounding land users. As the previous participant said, this is all residential. This is not rural at all. Big Bend is a very busy street, and I have issues with the county already with the amount of traffic that's on this road. When Merrimack floods, All of the traffic from Marshall Road is on that road. Where you are indicating your entrance for this, it's a blind corner. There is the entrance into Tree Court Industrial that already has a traffic signal, and you can't see that signal from the entrance where you're going to have this development. There is a sign that there is a flashing light when the sign turns red. So it's a very dangerous curve at that point. I'm concerned about emergency vehicles. My son lives up the street. The traffic's already bad. He has to pull out of his driveway with probably 35, 40, 50 mile an hour traffic. It's not a safe area. The 3 new streets that have just been made, there's been no change since like 1980 to this street and this traffic. There's no sidewalks up it coming down from Barrett Station. Coming from either way, there's no sidewalks. There is no shoulders. I ride my bike and I also walk. So I'm very, very concerned about the additional traffic. Barrett Station will be used also. Barrett Station is barely 2-lane road. If you drive down it, you can see where parts of the white line on the edge of the road have fallen off. So I'm also concerned about that not being, have more traffic on it, and it's just not good for traffic. This whole area is very bad for traffic. That's my main points. Please read my letter that I sent in to everybody.
We will read it.
Okay, that's all I have to say, but I've lived in this area for 40 years and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse with traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Next will be Thomas Kibby. Mr. Kibby, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak. I'm Thomas Kibby. I live at 949 Chapelwood Court, which is immediately adjacent to the parcel under question. I've been a trustee for the Homeowners Association for Chapelwood Court. I spent the past 4 years monitoring the completion of our rainwater detention basin, so I have some experience with MSD approach to stormwater runoff. And I've reviewed the MSD Acela database numerous times, and I see permits or at least proposals for in the past for the 13205 parcel and other parcels nearby. And I see these have failed to be developed for basically 3 main problems: stormwater runoff, sanitary sewer problems, traffic. So I'll speak to the stormwater runoff problems, and other speakers will speak to the other issues. My first concern with the site is there will be much more rainwater runoff than before. So living next door to this property, I've rarely seen visible runoff from the property since it is now mostly grass. But this would obviously change with the proposed development. The map shows a large house with offices and 14 bedrooms, covered patio, parking for spaces for 35. This creates a total of about, I estimate, 40,000 square feet of impervious surface, or almost an acre. So 1 acre would move from grass to impervious surface, which would obviously substantially increase the stormwater runoff. My second concern is the applicant's plan to control runoff is inadequate. There's no stormwater calculations provided. The plan shows 2 so-called stormwater management basins, but shows both with overflow outlets draining to the near side of Longstone Lane. And the current there's a drain pipe that passes under Longstone and discharges downhill into an open ditch between 2 occupied homes on Longstone. I certainly encourage the MSD staff to come out and look at that. But this under-road conduit has frequently become blocked, and rainwater has flooded Longstone Lane itself and the basements of the neighbors who live nearby. So this drain pipe is already insufficient for the current amount of runoff, and it would be a disaster for the neighbors faced with much increased runoff once the development comes in. And besides, there are no BMPs proposed, such as porous pavement or collection swales or rain gardens. This plan is clearly inadequate to manage the increased runoff. Finally, our street on Chapelwood Court has a stormwater detention basin, and I can say it works. Now it's a 3-stage detention basin, but because of it, there's no flooding either upstream or downstream. Now, it's not inexpensive, but the cost for this was added to our homes. I'm only asking that the builders of the 13205 Big Bend project be held to the same standards as a neighboring street on Chapelwood Court. So in conclusion, with this project, there's going to be substantially more rainwater runoff. The plan the applicant has presented is completely inadequate to manage this runoff. It will only add it to an existing flooding problem for the Longstone residents. And I request the applicant be held to the same standard of runoff management as the neighboring development on Chapelwood Court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next will be Michael Mode. Michael, you are unmuted to give your comments. Michael Moad, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. We will come back to him. We will go to Chris Parks. Chris, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Okay.
please proceed.
All right. Several years ago, the subdivisions to the east of the proposed property, when they were being built, I called MSD to see if it could hook up to their sewer lines. And I was told that the sewer lines that are there are only designed for those subdivisions and no other structures could be added to that line. This proposed facility would dramatically change the nature of the area. The area all around this property is zoned for single-family homes, and there are no commercial type buildings in the area. In my opinion, this facility is a commercial building by any definition. It will have employees on site 24/7, 365 days a year. The people staying there, by the CEO's own admission, will only be at this location on a temporary basis, less than 1 year. She stated on average they would be there 3 to 6 months. This by any stretch is not a group home. The guests are not permanent residents. It's more like an extended stay hotel. Additionally, this facility will be paid for by every person that is staying there, just like a hotel. A hotel, extended stay or not, I believe in Missouri is a commercial building which does not fall under R5 zoning. This organization also has a facility in Defiance, Missouri. A quick Google search shows the facility is a 3-story building, and we can only count 12 parking spots. Here again, why does this proposal, 1-story building, need 35 parking spots? Do they have future plans beyond what is proposed if the zoning is changed? And they state that young children will be staying there. Who's going to watch those children, especially when the parent has medical needs? Do they need several employees to run a daycare on site? And if so, does that make a second business at this address? The people at this facility will obviously have more medical needs than a typical development. How will the excess noise from the first responders with the lights and sirens not bother the existing homeowners? Also, on their proposal, they show on the northern border and the western border of this wonderful tree-lined buffer zone. Majority of that is not trees, it's all honeysuckle that is actually on the street easement. There really is no buffer zone between this development and the houses to the north of this facility. I'd like to reiterate, in our belief, this is a commercial building being proposed in a residential area that would change the consistency of this area. These are not just houses here, these are homes. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Next will be Mark Ojale. Mark, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Thank you. That's Mark O'Gile, and I am his wife. Yes, I'm his wife, Ann O'Gile.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking my call. I have actually 2 questions, and I believe one is for the board there, and the other was somewhat addressed by the previous caller. My first question is the PC 18-22. What is the P.E.U. in an R5? That looks like a second issue for, in addition to the rezoning. So could someone explain that? And my second question is, along the lines of the other children that are going to be staying here. You know, what is the plan for the other children? Are they, will this impact our school districts? Again, what is the daycare situation? What is the noise level with having children outdoors playing? That was probably going to be addressed by Miss Peggy, I believe. Thank you, and I would appreciate a response to those questions.
Okay. We'll have them answer that on the rebuttal.
Okay.
Okay. Next will be Mary Anselmo. Mary, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I just have a couple of comments. The first is a question was posed to our ladies in, and the question is as follows. Could you clarify security practices for the property? The answer given is verbatim. As is the practice in our current homes, we restrict access to the building. Access is limited to persons with an appointment, and reception will remotely grant access to an interior vestibule after verification of appointment and credentials. There will be security cameras around the building and the property. So my comment about that is our ladies in clearly understand that there is a threat to its guests, their children, volunteers, and employees, or there would not be a need for such security. So I guess my question would be, what kind of security would be provided for those of us already living here? Also, as Maureen mentioned earlier, the curve on Big Bend is not conducive for stop traffic turning into the shelter. There's a curve there. It's a 2-lane road. The one going east is 2 lanes after Tree Court going into 1, and stop traffic to take a left into their parking lot is, in my opinion, a recipe for disaster. And I guess thirdly, somebody had mentioned the lighting on the drive, and currently there is no lighting there. And we live on the very next street east, which would be Chapelwood Drive. And, you know, we don't want spotlight lighting on our street. And also, Michael Mode is here. I don't know why he couldn't get unmoded, but that's the end of my comments. So I appreciate your listening.
Okay, thank you.
And the other is what the other guy, what is the plan for these kids? Are they going to impact our school district? Take care.
Hold on just a second.
Kids
I think
outside
I
screaming.
left someone unmuted. Oh, is it still Mary? I apologize. Okay, we'll go back to Michael Mode. Michael, you are unmuted.
Oh, we're off. Okay.
No, we're unmuted. Our microphone's open.
Michael? Oh, he just muted himself, I think. Michael, you are unmuted. Okay. In the meantime, I'll unmute Donald Ficken. Mr. Ficken, excuse me. You are unmuted to give your comments.
Yes, thank you. My wife and I live at 13024 Barrett Crossing Court, which is the subdivision located at the Big Bend and Barrett Station. And we're the original owners of the property, which we purchased in 1989. Our concern is related to the sewer issues to the proposed development. It is our understanding that MSD pump station that services our subdivision was never intended to service more than 12 homes. Our subdivision started having odor problems when new subdivisions along Big Bend were added to the station. Based on existing development, the pump station will be servicing at least 46 homes, nearly 4 times the capacity that was originally planned. Problems with odor has contributed to neighbors in our subdivision selling their homes and moving elsewhere. It appears the new property at 13205 Big Bend would be serviced by the same pump station that services our subdivision. The development plan shows 35 parking spots. Employees, visitors, and temporary guests using these spots will place a significant increase in load for a pump station already overloaded with 46 homes. Further, my understanding is that the change in zoning from R2 to R5 would allow future development of the property to expand from a one-floor design as proposed by the existing request to a three-floor design. Review of rezoning from R2 to R5 residential should consider the sewer requirements for not just the one floor as proposed as designed, but also for a three-floor building as permitted by a zoning change to R5. And thank you.
Okay,
Okay, Mary, I've put you back up so that Michael can give his comment through you. Mary?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Here he is.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Michael Mode. When we built our homes, we relied on the R2 zoning to keep our area single-family neighborhood, where we could have the quiet enjoyment of our homes. The character of our neighborhood would be dramatically impacted by rezoning the property to allow multifamily dwelling. Quiet enjoyment of our property would drastically be affected by the increase in emergency service calls and additional traffic. This is not a good fit for our area because it's incompatible with surrounding land use. There are no multifamily dwellings in our area or commercial buildings as with other shelters. The primary design shows only a one-story building. If this zoning changes to an R5 with a P.E.U permit to allow flexible buildings in building types, there will be nothing to stop them from adding up to 3 stories and other buildings on the site up to 60 feet tall, increasing the capacity of the facility. There are more than 35 parking spots at this proposed location than at the other 3-story facilities, which begs the question they are planning to add additions to expand capacity. This facility has many administrative and staffing offices and is more consistent with commercial properties. This is a 24/7, 365 building, and the building in the area is zoning permits and facility needs, which are more of a multi-family commercial area. We expected the governmental agencies to protect our properties with the appropriate zoning designations and keep single residential zoning from being changed with spot zoning. Neighborhood safety will diminish with additional vehicle traffic and individuals frequenting our area. Traffic issues will occur where the proposed entrance is only 150 feet from Chapelwood Court, close to the curb. Cars and delivery vehicles would overshoot or miss the entrance using our street as a turnaround, endangering our children who are playing in our quiet cul-de-sac. The current sewage pumping station, P478, was originally designed for 12 homes and currently has 48 feeding into the station. MSD is working on it often and said the number of homes exceed capacity of the pumping stations. We're also concerned with the decrease in property values and increase in crime, which typically around shelters, as research has shown. The percentage of decrease in property values runs from 7.1 to 17.4%, and crime has shown to increase by up to 50%, 56% in different areas. The shelter has security measures protecting the residents from outside threats, as was stated in the responses. We're concerned about the safety and security from people who are trying to see residents as at the shelter. We live in a good neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman, it's been 3 minutes.
okay, thank you.
Crime to maintain the comfort level. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to Mary Murphy. Mary Murphy, you are unmuted to give your comments.
Thank you. I'd like to take just a few minutes to refer back to a legacy study, which has a strong relevance to what we're talking about this evening. The study was completed by the St. Louis County Planning. The scope of the study was Doherty Ferry and Barrett Station Road. The time frame for this study was 1995. And although the time has passed since 1995, their issues or concerns are still highly relevant, and I encourage the Planning Commission to review this study. I'll quickly go through the 4 bullets and the final point. The first bullet in the study was with an emphasis to maintain and protect the primary residential character of the area. The second is residential development should be single-family homes only. The third is the space should not be used for commercial development. The fourth is buildings should remain at single-story height. And finally, a point that space for commercial development, such as being proposed this evening, is available and better suited at the intersection of Doherty Ferry and Big Bend, or Barrett Station and Manchester. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, we will go to Ben. Ben, if you could give your last name for the record.
Shipman, Shipman.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. The presentation kind of conveniently failed to show the homes around the property to the north. There's a whole neighborhood back there, of which I'm one of the homeowners. My house was built in 1890, and it will be overlooking the soon-to-be patio smoking lounge, I assume. So that's not a very inviting thought to me. The second thing is there's already a bit of rain, as we talked about before, and Tom stated that water drains off that property. You're talking about draining the majority of the property our direction to the north. And there are several houses that are low lying, and that water would flow right through their yards and it continue to flood their basements. Now, speaking of flooding in basements, I also have a residence on Barrett Crossing Court, and I'm part of that 12 home street that sewer system was built for, and the pump was designed years ago when they built our street first. For the capacity of 12 homes, there's a storage tank there. That storage tank, the MSD gentleman here the other day told me, was designed to hold about 24 hours of our small street sewage before, in an emergency, if they lost power. If now that we've turned it into 48 residents instead of 12, we probably have 6 hours or less if we have a pump failure or a power failure. So we're now talking about a 2-inch pipe and a 2-inch pump buried 20 feet down in a tank at the bottom of our street. That's what happens if that goes offline and they can't fix it within a long 6 hours. Sewage starts flowing from this neighborhood and all the other neighborhoods, including this new development, into the basements of the homes at the bottom of our street. And then it overflows and starts flowing down across the street, across Barrett Station, and down the road. So that's a huge problem that I think needs to be addressed more fully before you start giving this permission. They just keep adding and adding sewage, and they're talking about pumping your sewage up into one of the neighboring streets and then having it join onto our system that was never designed for it. So that's one of my primary concerns, especially since there's talk of rolling power outages this summer in St. Louis County that would take us offline for who knows how long and force us into this situation where we can't use our water. So thank you very much for your consideration in this matter. Again, my house behind on Longstone was built in 1890, and having a modern building with lights and smoking lounge and everything else there is really disturbing to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that is all the comment. If anyone would like to submit additional written comment, you can do so via email to planning@stlewiscountymo.gov. That's stlewiscountymo.gov, planning@stlewiscountymissouri.gov.
Okay, Mr. Stock, can you come back up and answer some of the questions raised?
I apologize, Wayne. I just got a message of someone else who'd like to speak.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Next will be Pratima Murali. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. You are unmuted to give your comments.
Thank you. This is Chinya Murali. Pratima is sitting right next to me. We are in Barrett Station Court, Barrett Crossing Court, and I want to also reiterate the sewage problem that we will face. We already, as mentioned, it was designed for 12 homes and now it's serving 48 homes. And we get regular sewage smell all through the summer and even sometimes in winter. I'm with this situation not being addressed with a huge commercial property coming in, I don't know if we can live in this house with so much sewage smell coming through. And I do think this, that's the first point. The second point being this being a commercial building, I think it is designed for a big commercial building once the zoning cap change happens. The 35 parking spots is a big giveaway. I think the first floor is the initial part. I think it will be a high-rise building later in the next 3 to 5 years, which will make our homes unlivable. And that's the main comment I wanted to make.
Okay, we appreciate your comments.
Okay, I think that's everyone, Mr. Hilsinger.
Okay, Mr. Stock?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hiltziger. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to try to address some of these comments. And those that we don't tonight, we will certainly respond in writing to the commission. But I will try to briefly go through those that I had jotted down. I think there was a question that was asked of the commission or staff relative to the P.E.U. And I think the P.E.U. is what's very important to many of the concerns and comments raised about the change in zoning. So today the property is zoned R2 and it would yield somewhere between 18 and 20 single-family homes. It would certainly change the topography of the site and the existing landscape in order to grade the site and become in compliance with St. Louis County subdivision. So my comment relative to about a rural setting was strictly to the site itself as being rural, and I think I mentioned in a suburban neighborhood. So we recognize that there is single-family residential to the east and to the north of the property. And as I mentioned, just a moment ago, that R2 zoning would yield more single-family homes than what we're proposing in beds. So again, this is a single-story building designed with architectural elements to be residential, as the architect indicated. The P.E.U. in itself would limit this development to a one-story building. It would limit it to this site plan. It would limit it to the number of 14 beds. So there would not be the opportunity without another zoning action or coming before this commission to build multifamily units on this property under an R5 zoning. So we're not asking for an R5 only, we're asking for an R5 with the P.E.U. It's either all or none. And again, the criteria that's written in that P.E.U. does protect these residents from something else other than this particular facility. The good news about this facility is it is a low traffic facility. It would be less traffic than 18 to 21 single family homes on Big Bend. Issues such as site distance is something that we will have to deal with St. Louis County Department of Transportation. They have submitted comments relative to that. They've not objected to this driveway location. We've looked at this driveway location. The sidewalk in itself will improve the site distance that occurs. The blind curve, the radius, the overgrown vegetation, those would be pulled back with the sidewalk to improve those site distance lines. With regards to the sanitary, I take that very serious. I have personally had discussions with the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District regarding the sanitary sewers and the systems, and they've directed us as to where to take it. But they've also indicated that we need to develop the flows and check the capacity of the pump station. The comments made that it was designed for 12 and now it has 48, it's a little confusing to me that MSD would allow that to happen without additional storage being provided at the pump station and or pumps. So we certainly take those comments very serious and we will review those with them. With regards to the stormwater, at this point, there is not a formal submission that's made with MSD. And when I say at this point, when I'm talking about the zoning entitlement, but those stormwater management basins are the three items that the gentleman mentioned that he has in the subdivision. These stormwater basins are basically rain gardens. They're designed to mimic the pre-developed hydrology. So they're there to reduce the post-developed runoff below the pre-developed runoff rates that exist on the site today to compensate for the building and parking, which he had estimated about an acre of impervious surface. There's volume reduction, which occurs within these biobasins through infiltration, evaporation, transpiration. And that's why they're planted and they are giant rain gardens. So we're very sensitive to the comments about flooding to the north. We certainly don't want to be part of a project that's going to exacerbate flooding or cause flooding. So those are the items that are taken very serious. And as we move through this process of zoning and moving into the next stages of site improvement plans, all those design calculations that are being referenced are created. The design is done, formal submissions are made to the MSD, made to St. Louis County Transportation Department. With regards to the lighting itself, St. Louis County has ordinances. This lighting is no different than really the street lighting that's on Chapelwood Court or any of the other residential. There is no illumination from these lights that are cast off-site. I think as you can see on this drawing, there's pretty substantial distance, more than 150 feet from Chapelwood to that first light at the driveway. And that's just the transmission easement. So the lighting is contained within site. There is no spotlights that are projected into the residential properties. All the lighting is projected down. I think the comments about the residential single family, I think, you know, again, just going back to the P.E.U, we certainly recognize that this property is zoned R2 and the request to R5 would not occur without a P.E.U. I think we've seen some of the previous petitions or applications, whether they have been gone to a public hearing or not, but I have seen the drawings. As the one gentleman mentioned, he went through MSD's Acela. So many of those previous projects or few projects that were on the site, I've seen those as well. So we do think we have a good project. I don't know if Ms. Forst would like to comment a little bit further, but those were some of the notes that I had taken.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure, I can try and respond to the notes that I took down. I just want to clarify that I've been with Our Ladies in about 10 and a half years. I can count on one hand how many times an ambulance has come to both of the facilities, and we've never had a siren. So that's really not an issue. There was a question about daycare. We do not provide daycare on site. That we connect moms with daycares within the community, and that's where they take their children. When they have their children in the home with us, they are solely responsible for taking care of their children. So that no children will be wandering around anywhere. There was a question about security. I have security cameras in my house. I monitor who comes in and who comes out because we don't live in a safe world anymore. And that's why we have the security that we have. So I had said at the outset, we're not a domestic violence shelter, so we don't have you know, those types of individuals coming looking for anyone at our shelter.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions?
Mr. Shipman mentioned his home was built in 1990 and he's be looking at those patio. Is there anything that they can do to shield that from his site?
I think the answer is yes. We'll look at where Mr. Shipman's home is and look at those sight lines and understand that. And if we need to rearrange our site plan to address that issue, I think we're certainly open to doing that.
Okay, thank you.
We did just get a question in the chat asking if there is a maximum age for the children staying on the premise.
The children that come with their moms, they have to be dependent children, and 12 is the maximum age.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, this concludes this hearing. And I want to thank everyone for participating and for your comments. So, Mel, you want to take a...
Sure. So when you leave the meeting or when it ends, you will receive a pop-up poll asking if you are in favor, opposed, or have concerns regarding this request. And then I would just like to repeat that you can submit additional comment to us via email for the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we need a motion to adjourn. Commissioners?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I second it, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it 6-0, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Have a good Memorial Day, guys.
Yes, happy
You too.
holiday.